Hello and welcome to this month's program. I'm Dennis Scully, the host of the Business of Home podcast. I'm also the curator of the Dialogues on Design series here at the New York School of Interior Design. Through subscriptions and sponsorships, these conversations raise money for our scholarship programs, including our Diversity Scholarship and our Pre-College Scholarship Program, where we hope to introduce interior design as a career path for young people from often underrepresented communities. I'm grateful to all of those who have helped make this series possible and want to give special thanks to Betsy Ruprecht, Benjamin Moore, Charlotte Moss, Holly Hunt, Kravit, and the Shade Store. Your generosity is greatly appreciated by the school and by the students. Tonight, I'm joined by the celebrated and animated interior designer, Gail Davis. In addition to having been a student at NYSID, Gail's design career began while working for two of our upcoming Dialogues guests, Bunny Williams and David Kleinberg. I hope you'll enjoy my conversation with Gail Davis. Gail Davis, so incredibly exciting to have you here. Thank you so much for making the time to join us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Dennis Scully. I really am excited to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure. And there are so many things that I want to talk to you about and so many things that make you such a perfect guest for this year's series that we're doing for Dialogues on Design. As I mentioned to you earlier, we're talking with people about some of the people that have impacted your work and some of the people that may have mentored or influenced you, but you're also someone who made a career transition into interior design and were smart enough to sign up for classes at the New York School of Interior Design. So naturally, we want to hear your story. So where should we jump in? What path were you on? Where were you coming from? Tell us.
Where was I coming from? Confusion. So I was the assistant to the president of Off Fifth, Saks Fifth Avenue, and I had been at Saks for about 9 years. And when it was just like probably the last year, maybe the last 2 years, that I was getting burned out. And I was just like, oh, this is not fun anymore. Like I need to do something else. And I didn't know. And I was just like really all over the place. So it was interesting. My boss received this plaque, and on the plaque it said, "What would you do if you knew you could not fail?" And that's when failure was a big deal to me. And so I was like, I'd go to school for design. I was like, where did that come from?
Well, so where did that come from?
I don't know. Maybe you know what I love the visual people at Saks, and I was always like, looking at what they were doing and had to check in on it and somehow.
And tell us what you were doing at Saks. What was your role? And
assistant to the president.
Fashion? Okay.
Yeah, well, it was assistant to the president, her right-hand woman, Gal Friday, everything, always in meetings, making, if you watch the movie The Devil Wears Prada, that was my lifestyle. That was me. Yeah.
Was that your life?
That was my life.
Okay.
But I learned a lot. I learned a lot. And so I decided to go to school, and I initially graduated from FIT. And then I was like, okay, I'll just go back there. But the wait list was, I think, 3 years, and you had to go in full time once they started. So I was like, that's just not going to work. So then a friend of mine who was at Saks with me, she was like, oh, you should go to New York School of Interior Design. And I was like, wait, what? Where is that? And she was like, it's uptown. It's on 70th. So I was like, okay. So I applied, and they had different certificates, like different programs. And I was like, let me just go for the certificate, the 1 year, and see how it is, and then go from there. So I signed up, I got in, and I always tell people what you think design is. It totally is not. It is the complete antithesis of shopping, hanging out, spending people's money, and having a great time. There was
so is that what you thought interior design was shopping and hanging out and having a great time?
Well, I thought it was at best HGTV. Like I thought it was going to be fun all the time. And there's a lot of technical aspect to it. And that is what blew my mind, because I took basic drafting, which I literally was in tears all the time. And I took, oh my goodness, there was this gentleman, and I cannot remember his name. I see him in front of me now, and it's something with an H. He was an art teacher. And this man was so phenomenal. On our first day of class, he's speaking to the class and he's drawing upside down, but right side up to us and upside down to him. And he drew this amazing picture. And I was like, oh my goodness, Mr. Harding, that was his name.
Mr. Harding. Okay.
Yes. And I sketched like a 3-year-old. But by the time I finished, being in his class, I sketched probably like a 10-year-old. So I'm very happy.
A 10-year-old who could sketch upside down, right?
Right.
So that's impressive.
Yeah. So I went to I started at NYSID, and then I really got into it and I started really loving it. And I was like, okay, well, baby steps. I did the certificate. Let me apply for the associates, because I wasn't going to be like, let me do the bachelor's and then really be overwhelmed and just, cry the whole time. So I did the associates. And what was so funny is, at the time when you faxed your resume, they were imploring us to get a internship. And once again, I came from fashion. I knew nothing about the design world. I didn't know any designers, any firms, nothing. I was just happy to go to class and learn there. So I had got a list and I sent out my resume to all these people. I actually interviewed, and I recall now, at Thomas Jane.
Oh,
which was interesting. And I was like, okay, well, this is not my style, but I think I could do it. I wasn't sure. But also too, if I can say anything, like, you never go in like looking for your style, because you learn so much from what is not your style, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So my friend Lisa, my classmate, was like, oh, did you find an internship yet? And I said, no. And she's like, pass me your resume. I'll give it to, I work for Bunny Williams on it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't know who Bunny was.
Right. And you didn't quite know who Bunny Williams was at the time.
No.
No.
And so it's like, okay, I gave her my resume. I got an interview that week, and I started the following week. And so it was really great. And it's so funny because anytime I see her, she's like, are you going into Bunny Williams' office today? And I was like, can you just ask me if I'm going into the office? Like, why do we keep saying this lady's first and last name, right? And then I found out who Bunny was. And I have to tell you, it was the most amazing experience ever to be an intern there. I learned so much about the business, but more importantly, I really learned a lot about what makes a room, what makes a house a home, what makes a room flow, what makes it work. You learn about the inhabitants and what they need to make their house work for them, and also to make it just feel cozy, because, you walk into homes and you're just like, okay, nice house. But then when you realize people have to live in it, it has to work for them, then that's something different. And so it was just very interesting to work there. And then I learned about Parrish Hadley, of course.
Right.
And I was there for a year and a half, intern the whole time. Also has a great setup because you have a senior designer, a junior designer. You also have the person that does the paperwork for you on your team. And then you have an intern. So I was really fortunate, because then I got to work with Elizabeth Lawrence, who was Elizabeth Swartz at the time, and she was a junior designer.
Another NYSID star.
Yes, making her way to now partnership. I got a chance to work with Stuart Menger, Todd Gribben. Like, there were 3 or 4 designers, lead designers there. And it was just so interesting that each time I came in, I got a chance to work with each one on different projects. And the projects were just absolutely amazing. Like, they were just so rich and just so full. From there, I went to David Kleinberg, and I learned the different aspect. Yeah. Oh my God. Another amazing experience. And I laugh about it because you could see the Parrish Hadley in the two. And, Bunny is Mrs. Parrish, and David is definitely Albert Hadley with his sensibility of design. And I just feel so fortunate because I got to learn from 2 amazing individuals and really understand design and architecture and working with architects and working with the trades and, doing custom and custom linen. I was like, custom bedding? What? Custom linen for someone's house? Never heard of that. And just learn so many things to make a home really special. So really excited about that. Super excited.
Well, so tell me a little bit more about what you learned about the process itself. That's what I'm always so eager to understand, or what became sort of the foundational building blocks, if you will, towards a process of design. Because Bunny's very deliberate in how she thinks about it, and as you were saying, comfort and livability is so important to her, and I wonder how that sort of became ingrained into the work that you find yourself doing yourself these days.
Well, it's funny. We always started with the rug. We always started with the rug in the room, and you would just find like these most amazing rugs that like really spoke to you for that space, and then that was the jumping off point, and then to shop for that. And it's so funny. I learned so much. The tactility of fabric, and that it's, you go to a local store, we'll say RH, and it's always, the Belgian linen and maybe a mohair. But there it was cut velvet, it was the linen, it is the boucle, it's leather. It's like all these different textures really pull you in. And if you're able to pull all of that out of a rug and really, then add in the brass and then adding the lighting, all of that made it so much more special. And it helped me, with my, with how I operate with my clients, because I look at the room in its totality. And that was the other thing that I learned. Sorry, I use my hands a lot. With Bunny, is that you have to look. I'll never forget, a designer had mentioned this pillow to her, and she's like, enough about the pillow. You got to look at the room in its totality, and what does it need to do, and how does it need to operate, and how does it need to, it was form and function. Like you hear about it in school, but then when you have to sit there and work with her on things or work with the designers, you're like, oh, form meets function. Like it really makes sense. Because if you look at a lot of designers, for me, they'll put a lot of pretty things in the room, and a lot of delicate stuff. And then people can't really use the space, right? Because it's so delicate, it's so cutesy, it's so adorable. But can you sit on it? Are you going to be upset if someone spills the glass of red wine, or the kid spills their juicy, or if the kids are riding through on their little tricycles? You don't want to make the space so precious, but you want to make sure that it works for the household and the people that live there. Oh, and I also learned entertaining from Bunny. Like
entertaining.
Really, oh my God. Yeah. Like the china, like how are you setting the table, and are you making it buffet style, or is it a sit down dinner? Like it's just so many things. And it's just, even having guests over, how are they feeling? What is that room like? Do they have everything that they need in that room without having to ask you, hey, do you have this? Or do you have like a book of maps and things to do in town if they're staying, longer than a day or two? Like you want your guests to feel welcome and at home, and you want them to feel warm and invited. If that should make sense to everyone.
Well, and you mentioned earlier, which I thought was interesting, that Bunny very much had this Mrs. Parrish sensibility, and David this Albert Hadley sensibility, and I wonder, and you were just starting to talk about David, I wonder what the differences were in those approaches and styles in your opinion.
Okay, so Bunny likes things, right? And I'm the same way. She likes things in the space. And David is a lot more neat. Like everything has its place. Both are beautiful rooms. You can live and have stuff, or you can still live in the space and be a minimalist about it, if that makes sense. David's way was everything was very tailored, very clean, very buttoned down, but the best way to describe it, it was very tailored. And
Like the man himself, he's always so
yes,
well put
perfect.
together and appointed, right? I mean, he
Right. Right,
personifies that.
exactly. It's
Yes.
like it's the turtleneck with the jacket and, the belt, simple, elegant, and that's David. With Bunny, it's like, the shirt with the necklace, maybe, some rings, maybe a bracelet, like the earrings. And so it's finished. It's the accoutrements, right? And with David, it was more like pulling you in, and it was alluring. What is in this room? And like, it would just be very clean, and it would just be like some amazing artwork or something that would just really set the mood. And you'll be like, oh, what's going on in here? It's like, no, I want to linger in here. I want to sit down in here and just take in the space. And I love that a lot of his, like, yes, he uses upholstered pieces, but I love that when he does have other furniture pieces in there and their chairs, and like the texture of the wood and what it looks like, how shiny it may be, how shiny it may not be. And then I like how he mixes it with the leather. And then it's like, let's throw some brass in there. And then what is that light fixture like? And then, the color, like the paints. That was the other thing I learned a lot with David and his team, paint and how they really looked at it, and just how they made the space more amazing with the lacquered walls, or just the way they did the trim, where everyone's always making the trim white, and how he could make it like an off-white or cream or something, where it wasn't like, hi, I'm here. It was just, it just, the whole room, you would just look through slowly and something would catch your eye at different points. Also, jumping back to Bunny, my first time going to Sotheby's, doing auctions. That was, once again, what I thought design was and what it actually
the notion
is.
that I had
Yes.
and what it actually turned out to be.
Yeah, you're like, oh, so this is really not HGTV. Okay, this is like real stuff. I mean, they need to show that side of it, where it's not just running to Target and Home Goods and just picking up stuff and like, okay, making this space,
Yes,
and filling
I
up
think
with
if there
things.
are two ends of the spectrum,
Right.
HGTV being over here, Bunny Williams
Yeah.
and Dave Kleinberg, right? Perhaps
Yeah.
even
Yeah. Yeah.
further out
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So,
it was just
right.
amazing to like see. And so I just am grateful that I knew nothing about design. And then I landed with, two titans.
So let's jump into some of the work that you've done, and let's talk a little bit about your process, and again, sort of perhaps where some of the earlier influences from Bunny and David might be creeping their way into your work, or into how you think about your work.
Perfect. Let's go. Oh, okay. So this is the Kaleidoscope Project.
And so tell people what that is. Tell people about the Kaleidoscope Project and what was behind it.
So the Kaleidoscope Project was the brainchild of Amy, Lynn, and Patty. Wanted to represent designers of color, and they called it the Kaleidoscope Project. And it's so amazing because it was 23 designers of color from across the country, from East Coast, West Coast, in between, and even British Columbia, I believe. Really nice. Everybody was great. And we all got a room. So it was a bed and breakfast. Let me just backtrack here. It was a bed and breakfast in Lenox, Massachusetts that was being renovated. This gentleman purchased it. And what was so great about this is that normally when you do a show house, you have to dismantle everything at the end of it. And then, take it all down. Like the wallpaper would have to come down, paintings, everything. And for this show house, it stays in perpetuity. So if you go there now, you can stay in my room, which is called the Ernestine room, which is named after my mom. And this is exactly what it will look like. So I really enjoyed this project. When Amy Lynn reached out to me, she was like, oh, I got this space for you. And I go, okay, so what you should know about me when I do show houses, I like the smallest room. And she's like,
Is that
okay.
right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Because for me, like, I feel like if you get a big room, anybody can do a big room, but you really have to show how creative you are with a small space. Right.
interesting.
And
Okay.
for me, like, you really have to utilize the whole entire space. And when I say this room is small, you see how this picture is. The wall is literally right there.
It
That's
is
as good as it
closing
can.
in on you.
Yeah. And the other funny thing is that you can't see to the right where the light is. The window is there, and the window is probably not even, it's to the second portion of the headboard, not even the top. Like, it's a really low window. The headboard is from a furniture maker that I deal with that does all my custom furniture for me. And the fabric on that, all the fabric in this room is Schumacher. Like, everything was Schumacher. The wallpaper is Schumacher. And I just really loved how the headboard was designed. And I said, it's a bed and breakfast. People are coming up here to relax and, go take in some plays and just do some hiking. And I was like, how do I want this space to feel when they come back to have dinner and then finally get to their room at night? And I wanted it to be restful. I wanted it to be a place where, they could sit down and read a book. On the other side, which is really like right there in the corner, is a chair that I use with this amazing cut velvet from Schumacher.
Oh,
Um,
beautiful.
and yeah, I love that chair. That chair was in my garage for quite a few years. I got it at an estate sale, and I was like, I'm going to use it one day. And so here's where the HGTV comes in. I spray painted the legs and the trim, this gold, and then I had it reupholstered in this fabric, and we just draped this throw over it, and just super excited about how it all came out. But I was like, how would I want that person to feel? And I would want them to completely be relaxed. And I think there may be one more picture here, and in the corner, yeah, it's just a corner shot where I asked my friend Brian Paquette, this amazing designer from Seattle, who also
Yeah,
has an
wonderful
amazing,
designer.
right? He's an artist too. I was like, hey, would you make a piece of art for my room? And that's what he did for me, that
Hmm.
art piece there. So I'm super excited and super grateful. And Kravit was amazing to me. The mattress is insane. It's from Satva. And I tell you, I was like, I need to book some time here.
Yes, I think we all need to go stay in this room next time
it,
we're in Lenox.
oh my God, please. It's really amazing. It's only 2 hours outside the city. So that's the
Okay.
Kaleidoscope project. And it was really amazing because it was nothing but designers of color. And it was really powerful because then once the PR people and the news people came up to, check it out, media came up there, they were just blown away by the transformation of of the B&B. So
Yeah.
really excited about that.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh,
Oh,
it's so stunning.
thank you very much. Can I tell you, I was waiting years to use that table right there. This is one of my clients. This house is in Saddle River, and this is the wife's home office. I wish I had the before picture to show you, but it was really funny. Very masculine. Everything that was in there, as much as we tried to do like soften it up, it just wasn't working. And then finally, she's like, "No, I really need you to do your thing." So I was super grateful to have this opportunity that to turn this room into an oasis for her. To now, everybody wants to use her office, including her husband, who
I get it. I want to use her office. Is it by the hour or how do I book? I mean, I'm there.
So it's funny. The one thing she said, she's like, you can't paint the paneling, you can't paint any of the wood. And I was like, okay. I was like, that's fine. I was like, there's ways to work around that. So there was no light
Well, so the
fixture.
paneling is so dramatic. So that was all
Oh,
there. That was all
yeah,
part of the foundation that you had to work with. Okay. I mean, it's so striking. It's
yeah.
really, yeah,
Thank you. To the
yeah.
right, where that picture is there, that white piece above that artwork above the sofa,
Mm.
that was this wretched bookcase that had scallops and it was just
Ah,
protruding from the wall. And I said, the first thing I said to her, I was like, can we get rid of that? She was like, yes. So I had my guys come in and rip it out, and they redid the molding and the wood to match and they did an amazing job to match up with the rest of the room. We kept the fireplace, and I added also this light fixture because she only had the recessed lights, and it was like a runway because they were just going down the side. So it was just lighting the perimeter of the room, the front and the back, and that was it. There was nothing in the middle. It was always dark. And she has a lot of meetings. So I said, instead of having your desk, she had like several desks in there. I was like, we're going to do one desk. I did the layout, and I was like, okay, how do I want this to work for her? She always has a bunch of meetings, and she always has her team in her office. They're always doing something together and meeting on something. So I was like, you know what? Let me get her a simple desk, because she had this massive, oversized, very masculine desk from her husband when he used to use this as his office. So I went to Old Biscayne Designs. I love their furniture. And I picked out that desk for her, and I picked out this round table because I was like, we're going to give you a desk, but we're going to do it so when you have a meeting, you could just still sit at your desk, or you can go and join them at the table. And she was like, well, what do you mean? So when I showed her, I was like, so here, we'll have enough seating for 6 people, because her team is, I think, 5. And I said, so this way you can join them. And then when everybody's away and you're just having one-on-ones, or you just want to relax, we'll also have a sofa. And she was like, how is this all going to work? I was like, don't worry about it. So I'm just really excited. I use Brooke Perdigon's fabric for the drapery, which is really stunning.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Yes. And the artwork over to the left, there's going to be 2 ladies. You can only see one now. And that is Michelle Smith Boyd's work.
Oh.
So he's another one whose work I've always wanted to use.
Amazing.
But I am super excited. Choosing the fabric. It's a boucle fabric. You can't really see it from here, but it's from Mitchell Gold Bob Williams, and it's in this moss green, like this really deep green. That's really, it was just amazing. And it feels so amazing to the touch. And then on the other side, I did this console from also the console, which I love, because I use this console because it mimics the room with the concentric lines, and it has like the shininess that you can't really see here, like this iridescence on it. And when you open it up, like I wanted all her paperwork hidden. So I had my organizer, Jasmine, come in, organized by Jasmine, and she set it up. So this room always looks like this. So there's a place for everything to go, because, sometimes you leave your office and it looks like a bomb exploded in there, and you're just like trying to put things away. And and I found I love this lamp. It's a vintage lamp, and I found 2 of them. And what's so amazing about this, if you bought it today, that lamp would probably really cost you about $6,000, because it's Murano glass at the bottom where the orange is. And when you turn on the light, that comes on. When you turn on the light, that's the first light that comes on. You turn on the second light, then the
so
top
that
comes on.
glows.
Right. Beautiful.
Oh, how beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
lovely.
But that's it. And then you peek into her living room. I think I may have one more picture. Yeah. And then this was just a side view of the space, just to show the chairs, which are swivel. They're not on wheels. I was like, I don't want any wheels in here. I want it to be very feminine, very refined. I want it to be swivel, no wheels at all. This is another show house that I did in Plainfield, New Jersey. Okay. And this was for, it's called Grace's House. Grace is now she's 11. She was a 9-year-old that was diagnosed with this very rare brain cancer that they were able to operate on and just make her better. And her grandfather is an investor. So he buys a bunch of homes, works them over, and then puts them back on the market, like he flips them. And this was a tremendous house. And of course, once again, I wanted the smallest space. And I just wanted to have fun with this. So it's a very small space. I did stackables in here. I used Pierre Frey's RT wallpaper. The lucite chair I pulled in, and I just folded 2 towels over it. But I really wanted to have fun with the floor, and that's penny tile in there, instead of just doing like the whole floor one color.
I love the penny tile and the way you did it in stripes like that.
Yeah, like have
Yes.
fun with it, right? Because people are always
Yes.
like so boring with it. And I was like, no. And then the other thing I wanted
Yeah.
to do, and then it was like, okay, this is too much. I was going to put in the middle, like spell out laundry. And then the guys were like, okay, ma'am, no, this is
No, we
just
won't be doing that for
yeah,
you.
yeah. People know it's laundry. People know it's laundry. So I just really had fun with that. And the jumping off point for me was the floor. And I had picked those colors
Hmm.
first. And then the wallpaper came in second because I said, I need something fun. And I also put a bar inside this laundry room. So if you go to the next slide, it should show, yes, if you open those doors,
Is it a cocktail bar, you mean?
it's a cocktail bar inside.
Oh, see, because that's when you really need a drink when you're doing laundry. Because that
Yes, right.
if ever there were a tedious project that could use some stimulants, I think it's that. Yes,
So
good thinking. I think I'd like to incorporate a bar into my laundry
everyone should have a
room
bar in their
at
laundry room.
home. Yes. Good call. That and Pierre Frey wallpaper. If I could have some Pierre Frey wallpaper in my laundry room, I think I'd be a
Yeah,
lot happier during that time.
so
But this is
funny.
beautiful.
Thank you, and I will thank you also to Count and Tout. They were really amazing. They gave me the fabric for the
Oh,
window treatment, so super excited. It just really turned out, and I was very excited about how this whole space went. And then there's one more portion, which was actually what I initially signed up for, and you'll see is it was a long hallway. And I was like, okay, how can I make this impactful? And since green is my favorite color, I painted the hallway green. So the
oh, how
hallway
striking.
down to the stairs. And then what's very telling about this picture is the house, I think, is about 7,000 square feet. And it also has a maid's corners. And that's where I was. I was,
Hmm.
in the back in the maid's quarters, excuse me. And for me, that was very telling because when this house was built, they had servants. And if it was when it was like in the early 1900s, like 1918, around that time, it would have been my grandparents and my great grandparents working for this family. And so what I did was this was a very special area because I wanted to make it home for them or whoever the servants would be, working for this household, working for this family. And this picture here I found it's a triptych and I fell in love with it because it reminds me of how my grandfather would be over my two aunts that I had, and very much family oriented. And I have to tell you, people would turn the corner or they would come up from the kitchen upstairs. And as they turned and saw that picture, it was always a stopping point for them. And they
I'm
just were
sure.
blown away by it. It was a great moment for me. I really enjoyed it. And it was so funny when the green went in, the homeowner called and Dan was like, wow, that's some green you got in that hallway there.
That's a powerful statement. The combination of the two is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's going to all come together. It's going to all come together. So he was appreciative. Everyone really loved it. They're like, first I thought it'd be too much. And they're like, when you're in the space, you're so happy. So.
Well, and that's the great freedom of a show house,
Yes.
right? Is that you can
Yes.
make those kind of bold calls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's very striking. As you think about where you yourself show up in the work that you do today, we were talking earlier about show houses, and often you can have a freer hand with a show house. But I wonder, as we talked earlier about Bunny and David and their influence, but also the influence of your own family and your family's heritage and history that you were just talking about, I wonder where that shows up in the work that you do today and how you sort of bring that forward.
Well, it's funny, going back to the first show house was very much to me like a Bunny Williams room,
Mm.
because it was very cozy, very much pulling you in. And I was, if you touch the headboard, the mohair was just very thick and lush. And, the bedding was steamed to perfection and just really crisp with a nice scent on it. And you just felt like you could snuggle in. And that was important. And then also with the show house, with the other show houses with the drapery, just thinking of the way David does his drapery and how the pleats are done and just how they fan out, and then how you do something along the leading edge and really make it count and just have it be more than just, curtains. You want it to be something interesting in
Yeah.
the room, and something that you want to touch and look at, and how it's just really also a work of art. Like drapery to me is a work of art. If it's done the right way, then you can make it really take the space to the next level.
Well, and finally, Gail, I'm always curious for people who have transitioned from another career path into interior design. You were talking about the early days of having your own firm, and in a tough time for the U.S. economy and the country, and you sort of made it through that time, and now it's such a crazy busy time where everyone is working around the clock. Did you make the right call? Did you make the right decision? Has this ended up being the right path and the right industry for you?
It's the most amazing path for me. I am in my element. I am super happy. I absolutely love what I do. I'm not saying there's not days that it's not frustrating, especially now with the lead times going from, I don't know, 12 weeks, 24 weeks. So we'll see it next year,
Sure.
or a year and a half. Or, oh, no, I didn't say January. I told you they would be in May. And you're like, no, you said January. I absolutely love what I do. I'm having fun with what I'm doing. And, it just really feels good. It feels really great. And I'm so happy that I landed where I did.
So you feel like it was the right call taking those New York School of Interior Design classes. And
Okay, let's talk about that. I know there are a lot of people who go, oh, well, you don't always have to go to school. It is so important just to learn the technical aspect of it. It is super important to learn. I'm not saying that you have to go for like 10 years or go for your master's. You should take some courses. I would say take the paint course, the color course, to learn colors. Definitely basic drafting. It is amazing that a lot of people don't know how to read floor plans, which I'm just like, that's really key. That
that's
makes,
pretty basic in
yeah, it is super important to understand the history of design and furniture, and how it got started, and where these fabrics came from and how they got started. It just makes you more well versed, and it allows you to be able to show the value that you bring to your client. So go take some courses.
Go take some courses, go
Yeah.
work for Bunny Williams and David Kleinberg, and remember, it's not just shopping. There you
Right.
go.
Right.
Yes.
Perfect.
The big lessons. Gail, thank you so much for spending time with us and for sharing your work and yourself. So we
Thank you
really
so
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Same here.
Thank you again for joining us for another installment of our Dialogues on Design series. We have an impressive lineup in store for you this season, including conversations with the aforementioned Bunny Williams, David Kleinberg, Sheila Bridges, and many more. We'll be back every month with a new conversation throughout the school year. I'm grateful to all of our generous sponsors, board members, and subscribers, as well as to our producer, Jeremy Handelman, for making tonight's show possible. I'm Dennis Scully. From everyone here at the New York School of Interior Design, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you next time.